you have to focus on that you have a lot more to gain than you have to lose. And that's a lot what I do with my clients. Like we say, what's the next step? And they say, I'm terrified. I don't feel like I can do it. What if, this happens? And we say, okay, what if it works?
Welcome to the Unstoppables, where we turn those intentions into dollars. Today, my very special guest is Sundae Bean. She is going to teach us, to help us find our purpose. Who doesn't want to find purpose? That elusive quality, that elusive thing we search for, often in the dark without a flashlight. But purpose, our why, that's crucial. She's helped people from the prairies, the Alps to Africa. She's now in South Africa. She is blowing across my screen in all of her brilliance. I love your studio. Sundae, welcome to the Unstoppables.
Thank you. I was so happy to be here.
Tell me a little bit about your background coaching people on lifestyle, purpose, and happiness.
Well, I got into it when I started working with international organizations on helping them either tool their people up to work better with people across cultures, or let's say a major auditing firm sends people to a new country for 18 months. And what I found from working with people who were really, moving countries and trying to hit the ground running was they didn't have a lot of problems at work. They had more of a challenge of finding something beyond work, like something that was meaningful for them, and to find, how shall I say it, gain their equilibrium when they are fumbling in a new country. So for example, if you imagine someone who's top talent, they get recruited, they're sent across the world, and then they land in a place like Switzerland and people are speaking German. Now you're speaking and ordering a coffee like a 3-year-old. You're fumbling in the language, and you go from this feeling of hyper successful to like a toddler, and how that hits your ego. And I have to say that hit my ego when I first moved abroad, and it was a great thing, right? Smash it on the ground and stomp on it, but it doesn't feel good, right?
No, but it would definitely dent mine. So
yeah, just a little bit.
but I think what you said is important, because you need to, for lack of better terminology, tear yourself down, become that humble person to really be able to build yourself up. Because so many of us, we try to transport what we have in America or in any country and make it, force it upon a culture that is not ours, instead of assimilation. So
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think I honestly, when I was working for head of intercultural management of a really big company in Switzerland in a leadership role. And when we decided to move abroad, or again, I was moving abroad, but my husband was abroad for the first time because he's from Switzerland. I intended to work with organizations on intercultural competence development. How do you adapt across cultures? And I actually found myself that my clients were like, no, not so much about that. We want to go more through the personal change process, the personal transformation, so I can feel truly happy here. So I just took a direction. I went with what they needed, right?
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Williston, North Dakota.
North Dakota.
Williston, North Dakota, from the Bakken. Used to be 10,000 people. Now it's the heart of the oil center of North America. I was born and raised by a farmer and a housewife in North Dakota. Ended up going to Spain to finish my degree. Met my Swiss husband in Vietnam and backpacked through Southeast Asia, and then ended up moving to Switzerland, and then West Africa and South Africa after establishing my life in Switzerland. So I'm a little bit far from North Dakota right now. A little.
With the guests on the show, we talk about background in terms of a Joseph Campbell hero's journey, where you start out in North Dakota and you make this ascent. But yours, and the ascent, and then there's a fall, and then there's another rise and a perk. But you're captivating me in chapter 1 of what should be a book of what you've been doing. Tell me a little more about your journey, because what you're doing now in creating or helping people create lifestyle and helping them find their purpose. And then the elusive thing of as well is happiness and creating.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You know, how did you get started in that?
Well, honestly, I think it started when I was a child. Coming from a homogenous place like Williston, North Dakota, I thought, I looked around and I thought, I think there's more than this. You know, I would watch the Discovery Channel and I would see places. I thought, I just want to see this planet. And I went to university in North Dakota in the beginning, and I felt out of place because I was the most progressive person in the room. And I'm always the type of person who wants to be catching up. Like, I want them to be more progressive, you know, faster, better, and I want to be the one playing catch up. And so I went to the University of Minnesota, Minneapolis, and had a wonderful experience and finished my degree in Spain so I could learn Spanish. And then I just kept following this feeling of there's something next. So I went to Morocco, and in Morocco, I knew I had to either go to Africa and Asia. And when I went to Asia, I met this Swiss guy and a Bhutanese art dealer, and I just kept like following it. And that was fantastic, but it got real when this relationship I had was serious, and I gave up. I was working for Accenture at the time. At that time, it was called Anderson Consulting, because that's how old I am. And I gave up like this, you know, ego job, good money, you know, on the fast track. And I gave it up, and I started from zero in Switzerland. And I'm talking like I literally helped on a construction site where I had to like scrape paint with my thumbnail. And I thought, why did I graduate summa cum laude? Like, why did I go to university? Because I had a wall literally fall on my head that day. And I just had to start from scratch and make it work. And I think that was really pivotal for me, to give up everything and have no ego to ride on, no fancy degree to ride on, and had to start over and make it work in a culture that is lovely and challenging for someone from a family culture like mine. There's more of a privacy orientation in Switzerland, so it's hard to break in with people and connect. And I'm a connector, and I want to, you know how people are fast, and that was hard. So I knew there was a better way. Like I remember just thinking, this was in 1998, right? Before social media, before Facebook, before Internations, all those places. And I thought there's got to be a better way. And that's why I got my master's degree in intercultural communication. And I learned how to train people on international transitions.
You literally started from scratch. If you're scraping paint with your nails, you're starting from scratch. And it brings
there's more, but I won't share that.
Go ahead. This is X-rated.
No, nothing like that. Please.
There's something in your gene, and I think we share this gene, and that is you're progressive. You want to be out in front. Sometimes people tell me that the leading edge is often the bleeding edge, but you're a person who's moved through fear. So to do, there's two things. There's two big buckets of fear we have, that we fear loss and we fear change. So getting out there from North Dakota and knowing inside in your gut there's something more, following that siren's call and getting out there and making things happen. How do you move through the uncertainties and fear?
Okay. It's a really good question. I mean, I think the thing for me is I need to listen to my body, like what feels like the right next move. Because I think fear is, the amygdala is firing off and it's sending you warning signals. And that is, you can trust it sometimes and sometimes not, right? So I think one thing I got good at is realizing what's real fear and what's fake fear. So fake fear is there is no saber-toothed tiger in, the den. That's fake, fake fear. Real fear is what I felt in Burkina Faso when there was a revolution and a coup d'etat and, gunfire and those sort of things in the city. And I thought, what's going to happen to me and my kids? Like that was where I thought, oh, this could get real fast, So I think
you're differentiating between fear and danger. So fear
yes, exactly.
we bring with us from the plains of the savannah because it's the instinct for survival. And That's what you're, but then there's a difference between fear and danger. So
absolutely. Yep.
So
I think that's one thing. And in terms of, you said something that before that really made sense to me. It's like, don't take yourself so seriously. Because I honestly think we are afraid, silly stuff. Like we're afraid to order something in a new language for the first time because we're going to look like an ass, right?
Right.
Been there.
Can we stop taking ourselves so seriously? Just do it. Like, how do you learn otherwise?
Right. But that is one of those buckets of loss where we think we're going to lose our self-esteem if we look like, and that's part of the whole problem. That's part of the way to go through fear.
And it's such a cliche. I don't even want to say it out loud, but I think that it is, you have to focus on that you have a lot more to gain than you have to lose. And that's a lot what I do with my clients. Like we say, what's the next step? And they say, I'm terrified. I don't feel like I can do it. What if, this happens? And we say, okay, what if it works?
Yes. So give them the end. Yes.
Yep. What do you have to gain rather than what do you lose? And I think that's really important.
Now, the adaptation assimilation piece that you've used internationally I'm in Irvine, California right now. You can use this in Irvine. You can use this in Durban, South Africa. You can use it anywhere because what you're teaching, what you're coaching, and I love this, is you're talking to people about lifestyle, which I want to hit on next. You're talking about purpose, and you're talking about happiness. So where do you start in the three: lifestyle, purpose, and happiness? Where do you begin?
Where do I begin? I just want to say what all of those things have in common between the international and in California is it's about change. It's about changing yourself, changing your behaviors, changing your mindset. So I just help people through change. And I just happen to help people who have a more global, background or lifestyle, but it's just through change. Yep. Where do I start? I think it depends on what people are being challenged by. So I start where they're at in their change journey. So I draw a lot on the work of Martha Beck. She's a New York Times selling best author and a Harvard graduate. She's amazing. And we talk about 4 squares of change. So the first one is, I don't know what the heck's going on, and that's okay, right? Death and dying. If someone comes to me in that stage, then we need to deal with that issue. If they go to the next stage, that's where I think I'm trying to find out what I want to do. What could I do? So I think it depends on where they're at in this change process. Or someone's doing the really hard work to make a new business idea happen. So they're in another area of change. So I think it depends on where they're at. But I always start with a person. Yep. Because our mindset is, our thoughts create our emotions, and our emotions create the behaviors, and the behaviors create the impact in your life. So what's going on in here? Like, what are you believing about this challenge? Yep. And then we attack that first.
Well, I like what you said about change journey and change as a process, because so many of us think we need to change once, or we're changing in these blocks, and then and then we can stop. It's about evolving as a person from within, right, to be able to change the external. And I like the change journey part. If you were to coach me, because this is the one thing that's really become something in the last 5, 6, 7 years, it's been, from Simon Sinek on, to I guess yourself. Tell me about purpose, and tell me some of the techniques I would use to find my true purpose. Mm-hmm.
I think the first thing I start with is, as I said, the internal. Before we think about purpose, like what do I want to do with the world? We need to start a little bit closer to home with your core beliefs about yourself. So there are beliefs that I see people holding themselves back. Like, I'm not good enough. I'm not qualified enough. If people think I'm too old or it's too difficult, they will not pick a big, awesome purpose because they're blocked. So what I start with getting really clear on how do they see the world? How do they see themselves in relation to creating a purpose? And then once we blast through those, and they come back, right? We work through those, and I help them identify that. They start to gain confidence and start to open themselves to possibility. After I do that, I look at, so what are you great at anyway? Like the skills. So the mindset comes before the skills, and then we look at skills. And we use that as an opening to, okay, what lights your fire? What do you want to do? What feels like possible for you? And we play with things that they've maybe thought about but didn't think that they could make happen. And one thing I'm really clear about with purpose is, one, if you don't have a purpose, it can be life-threatening. Like, purpose is so fundamental. I think that especially people who are accompanying partners who travel with their, the executives, they're like, well, I'm taking care of the kids. That's my purpose. Or I'm supporting my partner. And that is a purpose. It's wonderful. But maybe they want something else just for them. Yeah. Right? So they need to give themselves permission to even want a purpose. Like, they're worthy of purpose. Does that make sense? Sometimes people think only these successful people have a purpose.
Right. No,
right. And then,
I also think that we could have more than one purpose in our life.
Yeah, exactly. And that was the other thing, is it's not like a needle in a haystack. You don't find your purpose, like digging, where is it? It's you are purposeful. So you create purpose. And I do that with people when they tell me, okay, now I'm more confident. Now I understand how I'm holding myself back. I know what my skills are, what I'm good at, what I love doing. And then we narrow it down and say, okay, what are some really great ways you can imagine dedicating your time and energy? What would you like to do? And you go to bed every night and say, yes, that was totally worth my time.
Sunday, I can talk Chinese philosophy, but I can't do Chinese arithmetic. But the Chinese philosophy of what you said is important in this way. And I want the viewers to catch this one part that you coach. What if? Part of a way of envisioning a what if scenario of the future. And that's one way to move through the uncertainties, the fear. So what would you say to the person? How would you coach me to start thinking about the what ifs in life?
I actually start, so when I hear what if, I see it out here. And then I start with right here, like in your body, what's drawing you towards it, right? So when you think about, I have a client who she just is so focused on supporting the underserved. So for example, homeless individuals in her community, or people who are calling the suicide line. She has this thing where she feels drawn to serving individuals who are underserved. So that's what we pay attention to. What makes her go, oh, I'd like to do more of that.
Yeah. There's a book out called Thinking Fast and Thinking Slow, and that's Kahneman, who wrote about the instinct that you're talking about. Mostly you're going by a lot of instinct. And then the times to move by instinct, and then the times to think things through. So you really need the combination. That's the cop-out in the book. But purpose to me pulls, doesn't push. A push is something external, driven by societal means of success or definition of success. But purpose is that compelling pull. You've never worked a day in your life once that finds you.
Exactly.
I just not.
But here's the problem with a lot of people. They're not in their bodies. It's like they're walking around just with the head and nothing is below, and they can't be pulled if they're not in their body, listening to what's pulling.
Correct me where I'm off. When you're in your head, you're listening to the external voices of society, the demands of society, who are telling you what success is. And you're probably acting out of alignment with who you are at your very core, your very nature. And you're in your head thinking, I have to be this, instead of inside where that body is going, this is who you are, what you are. Is that pretty close?
Yeah, absolutely. I always say to my clients, it's not what you could do or what you should do. Purpose is what you want to do.
There you go. Hey, I like that. I think I'm going to use that as one of my tweets for the day and just put my name on it. I take my guest stuff and I use it. No, you've got this gene. You've got the resilience gene. So tell me a time you faced real adversity. I know scratching paint off is adversity.
Yep.
It's a heavy price of manicure. Kels, I don't want you to do that, Kels. Oh, yours look good today. But tell me about resilience in your life and how it moved you forward.
So there's one thing that you said. I don't want to correct you. I want to offer another perspective. You said it's right.
Correct me.
It's a gene. I probably do have it as a gene because my ancestors are really hard, Norwegians that came on a boat and then they were pioneers and all of that. But I would argue that resilience is built, and it is developed. So resilience is a practice. And it is a combination of a mindset and specific behaviors. So resilience is around, how can I make this work?
Yes.
Right? How can I make this better? Or how can I make this less bad? Right? What am I learning from it? And it's also around, and I think you agree with this completely, taking excellent care of your health.
Yes.
Your mental health, your physical health, watching your alcohol moderation, making sure you're exercising, and then being in a support community. So resilient people are in a group of others and they ask for help.
Yes.
Not a cowboy, not a lone ranger, not the Marlboro man, right? But someone in community. That is resilience for me.
Where's my hat? No, I don't smoke. I don't have a hat. I think that, and I love what you said, because I did something once on this on Instagram. I think it's that resilience is honed on the anvil of adversity, and I think that's when you pound that. It's really honed and formed on the anvil of adversity. And I think that's the part when you either get up or you don't. You take ownership, and you do need what you said, which is brilliant, is help and assistance to pull through. We all contribute, we all share, we all grow, we flourish. Yeah. If we don't, there is no man is an island. I learned that when I tried to get into law school. That was the question by John Donne. Explain, son. No man is an island. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. But we all need each other to share, to grow, to flourish.
Yep. So at the time I developed resilience, I would say there were two situations where I think I demonstrated less resilience and more resilience, right? And two of, probably for me, coming from, a community of people where you could leave your car running when you go grocery shopping in the winter, a place where you leave your doors open, very safe. Also in Switzerland, super safe. And when we were living in West Africa, we were in Ouagadougou, which is the capital of Burkina Faso in West Africa. Wonderful place, love it, and on a day-to-day basis, quite safe. Yet, when there started to be political noise and there was a political uprising, there was a moment where I was on the terrace with my son reading him a book, and suddenly there was like 400 people in front of our door on this dirt road, and we found out there was a prime minister on the corner where we lived, and they were telling the prime minister, vote against this referendum, right? So it was a very peaceful way of doing it, but all of a sudden there were 400 people right on our road. It turned out it became a political uprising, and I felt, because I'd never been through this before, and I have to be honest, coming from North Dakota, the only thing, when we saw conflict in Africa on TV, it was Rwanda, so I was just like, I'm not so comfortable with that situation. And I knew it. The Burkinabe are peace-loving, amazing people. But there was something in like my mama side, like I have 2 kids, and I was like, must protect my babies. I got scared. I was worried there was danger. Right. And what happened, my husband called me out on it. I was calling, all my friends who had way more experience in conflict zones and coups. This is like normal for them, not for me. Calling them up, asking, what do you think? Calling my friends from the U.S. Embassy. Have you heard anything? And my husband said, Sundae, you are looking for an answer that no one has. Right. And I realized that I was trying to reduce my uncertainty by going outward.
Right.
And instead of inward, and actually within my family. And so that he called me out on that. And I learned that I was tired, right? In terms of resilience, there was some fatigue. It was hot. We had, there was something that was kind of filtering out my best resilience.
Yes.
And then I flash forward to another situation in Burkina where my husband was in Switzerland. I was in Burkina with the kids, and there was an attempted coup d'etat. So basically I got a phone call. My friend said, your son's not going to soccer today. Somebody kidnapped the president and the prime minister. And I'm like, well, that's nice. Okay, I'll come get my
it's
son.
Not like closing school in North Dakota from snow, is it?
Yeah, exactly. It's not quite the same thing. So I am, in a country where the borders are closing. My husband's in one continent, I'm in the other. And I was much calmer this time. much calmer. Because I realized, okay, calm down. There's no answer outside. This is observe and follow your instinct. And I think what I did differently is that I was willing to learn from the first situation. I was, in terms of resilience, I really took care of myself, what I needed. Instead of like panicky, amygdala firing, yes. I was able to take care of myself. And then I reached out for support.
So where you're coming from, and it's a corollary to your story, is awareness, because you're coming from that place of instinct of survival, and the brain craves and it seeks certainty, tries to find, even if the answers are spurious, even if the answers don't make any sense at all, it tries to draw this conclusion. So when you're doing all of that, trying to make sense of something, sometimes, Sundae, wouldn't you agree that we have to be okay with not knowing, what, and just go with that feeling of flow that it's okay?
Absolutely.
I think that's what you take.
I think it's not knowing, and then for me, it's about making the best decision you can based on the circumstances and letting go.
And with what information you have available. I mean, that's all you can do in anything in life. How would people find you? How do you attract your clients? And give me a profile, if you could, maybe 15,000 feet of your ideal client.
Okay. Well, I think a lot of people find me on my podcast, Expat Happy Hour, or they find me on my blogs at sundaebean.com. So what happens is, this is how they become clients. They hear my story and they're like, oh yeah, I've been there too. So they know I've struggled like they've struggled, and they stick around and they find out, oh, but she has strategies to move through it. So I think people find me by, one, identifying with what I've gone through and what I talk about and what I share of my clients, and then seeing that not only have I gone through it, but I'm trying to make the most of it.
So you're giving them actual strategies and tactics as how to move.
Absolutely. I'm all about strategies. So it's like, okay, mindset plus proven strategies plus accountability, boom, there's results right there.
Can you share a strategy for me on anything?
Well, it depends on your situation, but very simple, very, very simple strategy is, how do you want to save a relationship from going south? And it's a very simple situation with, especially with expats, very busy life and chaotic. You're at a crazy day at work, you drive home in traffic, you're frustrated, you open the door and you get jumped on by kids and a spouse. Meanwhile, your spouse is at home, electricians, kids are a disaster, and they meet you at the door and they're like, here, take these kids. One strategy is, before you walk in the door, you create a 10-minute buffer. You, the partner, and you, the one who's walking in the door, 10 minutes, so you can come down, make the transition from work to home, and you're more willing to say, hey, hon, how was your day? Rather than like blast through and all that stress that you bring with. And there's just such a tiny example, but the point is that it doesn't take any time, doesn't take any money. It is so simple, but all you have to do is do it.
No, I like that. No, I like that. That's awareness again, and applying what you're aware of. That's a good strategy. I like that. How does Sundae Bean define success?
I define success when it is completely in alignment with what is most important to you. And that's, if my client is doing that, that's success. I don't care if it has money or no money or status or no status. If what they're doing is completely in alignment with what means the most to them, that's success. Or to be honest, you're making progress toward that goal.
Yes, the progressive realization of a worthy endeavor. There you go. And I think that part of that alignment is huge. I love that word, because I think when we act out of alignment, when internally we're one thing, one way, and we are acting in another way that's incompatible with internal, we're out of alignment. That's where the unhappiness, the fissures that are created by that difference start to seep in. We got to be in alignment. I'm embracing what you say on that. But to go through the journey from North Dakota to where you are, you've had to have encountered failures. So what do you think is your biggest failure? How'd you get through it?
My biggest failure. That's like, I learned German. That's a billion failures. There's so many. Gosh, you know what? I don't think I have a big dramatic failure. I think I fail all the time. I fail all the time. And then I just
You're in great
moving
company.
on.
You're in great company because we've had hundreds of people that we've interviewed, and the great ones, they have a hard time with that one. They're, it's a setback, it's a challenge. It's a setback. Yeah. Different.
Honestly, when I think about failure, maybe there are times where I was like, God, I wish I had, one of the things I've been working on is there's one or two friendships that when people move abroad and then they leave to another place, you lose touch. It's not a huge failure, but I think there's something inside of me who's learning now, who said, you know what, I wish then I had invested more when they moved away.
Well, those are regrets. Those are regrets. So how would you coach me to not have regrets? Tell me.
Yeah, I just actually did a video on that today. That's one of the things that I've come to learn because of that, right? So I think one of the things that you need to do to have no regrets is if you're operating from a place of guilt, like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I should call her. I should spend time. I think the answer is action, because guilt is just calling attention to which person you need to invest more in. So if I feel bad, I haven't spent time with her, it's because my attention needs to go there. So the guilt is just like a flashing red light. Action needs to be taken.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So don't wallow in guilt or regret, right? Take action.
Do it now.
Yeah.
What's on your nightstand? Remember the old days when books were big and everything wasn't on,
Yeah.
What books right now?
I have Osho too, the Osho in the morning and in the evening, the Rumi from India, very famous spiritual leader. I also have the 100-Day Journal and my own journal.
I'd like to get into your own journal, but we will do that in another show. What is you only get one of these, Sundae. You get one of these. What is your defining moment?
My defining moment. I think my defining moment was when I was in Switzerland and I was the head of intercultural management, and everybody started calling me expert or specialist, like in German, and I started hearing them say it, and I was like, who are they talking about? I was like, that's embarrassing. I felt like, don't talk to me about that. So I went home to my journal and I wrote down what it would take to call myself an expert or a specialist, in intercultural communication. All the criteria that I would count would be good enough, right? And then I wrote down my experience. And I was like, okay, those match. And I think it was like a moment where I just thought, Sundae, just do this. This is okay. Be a leader. It's okay to be a leader.
What you're speaking of is labels. And the one label that you don't wear is failure, because once you start labeling things, that becomes the definition. It becomes your self-fulfilling prophecy, your life. That's your way. And the other thing is, I'm very careful about having any label that ultimately defines me, because I'm always changing. And people that know me will tell you, from my hair to whatever, I'm always changing. I'm a change artist. And I connect with you on the progressive change that you embrace. So with progressive change comes next. So what's next for you?
For me, what's next is I want to reach more people. I feel my word that I have that's been calling me is impact. Mm-hmm. And I know I make a very deep, long-ranging impact with my one-to-one clients, but I can't articulate it. It's just, I want to make a bigger impact. So I feel like I want to reach more people. I really want to empower people to take charge of their life so that they're happy and successful abroad, and they go to bed every night saying, yep, that was good.
And I want more people to find you. I think you got a great message. I don't want it to be diluted. So I want people to really find you. I want to have the impact that you want. So tell me again where the listener, the viewer can find you.
Okay, so I'm at sundaebean.com, SundaeBean, sundaebean.com. There's only one Sundae Bean, I guess. And I'm on Expat Happy Hour. So if you go to iTunes and you Google Expat Happy Hour, you'll find my podcast. And really, to anybody who's listening, email me directly, say where you heard about me, and I will respond to you personally.
Lifestyle, purpose, happiness. She has a desire to catch up. She's always thinking next. She's always moving forward. We love her. She's Sundae Bean. She doesn't look for purpose. She creates it. You are wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.